2 or 3 weeks out before the beginning of the school year. We had, of course, students and their parents concerned about, are they going to be rotating at sites? How does that look? Is that safe? And so through a series of Zoom meetings that we had with our students prior to school starting, we wanted to let them know that we were monitoring the situation. We were talking with our area clinic sites, our hospitals, to see, what's coming.
So one choice that our school district made at the beginning of the year, so any student that was in a practicum rotation class, they required that the student come face-to-face because of the labs and all the hands-on skills and rotations. That's just a huge part of our programs. And so this year we have a full class with 36 pharmacy students, and I was grateful. That was one of my concerns, is that I didn't want to lose any students because of the face-to-face requirement.
We treat you like you are one of our own children, our own kids. And if I'm not comfortable sending my own child out there, then I'm not going to expect that from any of my students as well. So that's how we let them know that we are hopeful that we get to rotate this year. But even if we don't ever get to leave campus and rotate at sites, we still have plenty to offer in our program. We have plenty to offer in our lab, and we can still make this a great, fun year for you guys in learning clinicals. So at the beginning of the school year, I sent out a yearly letter to all of our sites that we have previously used, just letting them know that our students are back. Would they, be willing to be a community partner again with our program? And this year, in addition to that letter, I also explained we understand that we're in a pandemic, that we understand, COVID rules and regulations, but is there any way that students could still come? I had about half of our sites say, yes, we would still love to have students, and the other half of our sites said, we want to wait until January. Let's see how things look then. So in January, when we returned, I emailed all those sites that said no until January. And out of all those sites that I emailed, and I'm going to say that's about 25, only one came back and said, we're ready to receive students now. The rest said, we still think we need to wait. It's after winter holiday. We want to see, what the numbers are going to do.
We normally go to about 30 different pharmacies in our area, and we definitely lost about 7 pharmacies because of COVID. I did start early this year, and I actually checked pharmacies before school started, and I spent about 3 days getting verbal commitments. I always go in person. Pharmacies will say no over the phone, and they will definitely say no to an email. So I go in person, and it usually takes me about 3 days to visit all of the sites.
I did have a former student reach out to us that we had in our program about 15 years ago, and she let me know that she is a manager here in our area. And she said, we would love to have students in our oral surgeon's office, and she had 2 locations, and so that was a huge bonus to our program.
I did go around to additional pharmacies, and we were able to pick up 3 more sites, even during COVID. So our program has a good reputation, and the many sites hire our graduates. So any site that is looking to be part of that program so they can hire good graduates if they're short-staffed, that's basically the way that I maintain my rotations.
All of the healthcare providers that we work with did not allow volunteers. So one of the creative ways that we addressed this was to think of our program more, instead of healthcare, as community health and wellness. So we started to reach out to programs that we knew remained active. A clinic for homeless individuals, some of the schools, an adult mental health program, and we started to come up with educational presentations that we could have a big board with information, some flyers, some brochures, and we went in before and set up tables with all of this material. And then as people came in, they were able to read about it. We took the information that students were learning in phlebotomy, and those became the topics of what we did in our educational presentations. And at the end of the day, we would go back and pick them up. But for us, we think that one of the best ways for students to learn is to have the responsibility of teaching it. Now, before we used to do that in person, but now we have them do the boards. But it's been very effective, and our partners have really enjoyed it.
Things that we have chosen to implement with the assistance of our regulatory agencies is what is known as interdisciplinary clinical scenarios. So our students are actually being mirrored in their labs as if it was in a clinical surrounding or arena. And we have scenarios that we have set up that are patient-based with diagnoses, symptoms, things that are going on with the patient, how would you care for that patient, and the student is able, with the observation of the clinical person, if it be a registered nurse or medical assistant, take care of that patient and get the hours necessary to then move successfully through the program, as well as their certification exam.
This year we have been very fortunate to be able to actually rotate at our sites in our area. We normally have hospital sites, and we have what we call outlying sites, such as dentists, physical therapy. We started out with just our outlying sites this year, about half of what we normally would have in a normal year. Some sites let us know that they weren't going to allow any extra people into the facility, like some of our orthodontists. Parents aren't able to come in with their child, so they stay in the car, so they didn't feel like it was necessary for students to come in as well. Our hospital sites, we started off in September and October with no hospital sites. They were kind of gauging to see what was happening in the community, watching the numbers. In late October, we got notification that two of our hospitals said that we could send our students in. With that, they were able to come in. So that was very exciting for students and for us as well. That lasted for about 2 weeks before the numbers started to rise. And once we reached that 15% threshold that they look at for a number of COVID cases that are occupying hospital beds, they decided numbers are getting too high. There's no reason to have extra people in the building. So they decided to go ahead and stop student rotations at that point, which we completely support. We're just thankful for any opportunity that our students get inside of a hospital, and we totally supported that decision at that time.
I am actually very surprised that here we are in the spring, and we've been on clinical rotation since October. I just basically went to the hospitals where we have a good working relationship, where many of our graduates get jobs there, and I just said, this is the slots I've got to fill. And so both of our major hospitals said yes, thankfully, and I was able to double up students there, send them to different areas. Maybe one would go in the IV room and the other one would go to the OR. And so they have many options since they have 30 or 40 techs at any given moment.
First of all, we can use virtual programs just to teach the content-specific skills. For us, most of the time, teachers just set up a Google Classroom. That allows them to be pretty interactive with the students. When it does come time to practice the techniques, students do come in. Across the state of Ohio in our programs, we do have some schools where students come in every day and work on their occupational skills training in healthcare, specifically phlebotomy right now. But for schools that don't have students coming in a lot, we can still use that virtual platform to get the content across and then have the students come in on varying schedules just to practice the actual sticks that they need to do.
At JTED, we have implemented several different internet-based learning management systems that assist the student to go through virtual skills, and then they're able to apply the skills in their home environment. So we have done some basic skills with some of our younger students, such as our foundation students, where they learn hand washing through modeling through the video, as well as their instructor will actually be in their bathroom teaching the student what proper hand washing is, and then we call upon students to then demonstrate in their own environment what does that look like. If the skill is more complex, our instructors have been able to go into the labs and actually demonstrate skills and model those skills, and then the students use their family members and people living under the same roof to apply those skills.
It's not the ideal way to teach clinical, but it was actually fun trying to come up with ideas and ways to teach these skills. And what we've learned from it is having their family involved has been invaluable. The family really sees what these students are really learning. These are real life skills that they're learning to take care of patients in a hospital, of residents in a nursing home. And their family members are becoming those people for us right now, which is making it more realistic, because in our lab, when they practice with another classmate, they already know what to expect. But when they're practicing on a family member, it's definitely been provided a lot of humor for us, but it's actually made it more realistic and real world for them. When they have to record themselves, introducing themselves, knocking on the door, introducing themselves, saying what they're going to do, and then perform the skill, it's been very interesting because they really have to think about what they're doing. It's been invaluable. We've learned a lot from it. We've learned that there are some skills that we do want them to perform at home from now on to really understand the skill. And we also realize there's definitely skills that they need to perform in the lab with us.
So our school was mostly face-to-face, but my students would routinely get quarantined for up to 2 weeks at a time. And this is when the pharmacy or modules were very helpful. I also would give various assignments. So during that time, maybe the students would work on learning heart meds or gastric meds or something like that. Because I wanted to break up, I didn't want them just to work just on the module. I wanted to provide some variety in their learning. But the modules worked out fabulously. I also, for my kids that were in person, I usually teach about 50% of the depth of the content for each topic. And then we do the hands-on portion. So if we're doing non-sterile compounding, then we might make a cream or an ointment, make some suppositories, do some capsules, things like that. Maybe a different lab each day. And then at the end of all the hands-on activities and all of the kind of like little research assignments and things like that, then we use the module, and they are on their own at that point to fill in the little picky details at the end. If I were to assign someone a module that hadn't been introduced and hadn't been worked through together, then I would get 40s and 60s on the lesson quizzes. So definitely digesting some of the material together and then assigning the module to the student has been very successful.